Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. This was the title chosen in 2016 by member of the Parliament of Denmark, Ida Auken, when writing what would become a now infamous World Economic Forum essay. The strange thing is how dystopian it is, but somehow hundreds of people in suits with almost no concept of real life outside of their gilded walls and privilege thought that this would inspire the masses to accept an Orwellian dystopia, no questions asked. The essay itself tried to frame this reality as a utopia, a world where people rely on shared resources, digital services, instead of personal ownership. A world where anyone who disagrees lives away in the outskirts of this modern, sustainable, efficient, equal city. While others saw this exactly as it was, a polite threat that one day you would pay forever for things that you used to actually own, and you'd better smile about it. Almost a decade after this essay was published, we can drop the future tense. That future is pretty much present. We almost own nothing, but the thing is, we are not happy about it. And unless we stomp our feet and let our voices be heard, this will be our future too. Our lives are infected with the illusion of ownership. Our films licensed, our music streamed, our software requires a subscription, games are often online only, and our phone calls to friends, usually in a digital platform. And in many countries, medical exams are no longer handed into you physically. You can access them through a link. The same thing sold back to us every month. And the moment you stop paying, it vanishes like it never existed. Right now, players are waking up to it. Stop Killing Games is the banner they are rallying under. It's a simple plea. If we paid for it, let us keep it. But big companies don't care because, frankly, they don't have to. This is about more than just games. It's about how we traded real, tangible things for a promise that turned out to be a lie that brought us here to this point. We were sold the idea that everything digital would be more accessible, but in many parts of the world, streaming access is limited, inconsistent, or unaffordable. Physical media like DVDs, books, CDs once provided autonomy. Now, whole cultures risk being digitally excluded or erased. And what's more, even dependent on the use of electricity to be able to access any of this. In an effort to be trendy, we succumb to the era of minimalism and Pinterest aesthetics, losing grip of what made touching our art so special. Having everything at our fingertips made us forget what it means to actually hold something real in our hands. We decided that the mess that makes us human was inconvenient, something to be hidden away and erased completely. Even Marie Kondo, the queen of decluttering, now admits her strict philosophy doesn't fit real life anymore. After all, a home stripped bare might be tidy, but it's also empty of stories, of history, of soul. Everyone drank the Marie Kondo Kool-Aid, and many are left wondering if the things we threw away were exactly what made us feel human in the first place. Stop Killing Games isn't just about saving an old racing game. It's a crack in the glass of illusion, exposing the real cost of you'll own nothing and be happy. In early 2024, a fan favorite racing game called Project Cars was delisted. You couldn't buy it, you couldn't re-download it, you couldn't even play it if you had already owned it digitally, unless you happened to have it installed in an old hard drive. Years of development, artistry, soundtrack licensing, player hours, gone, just vanished completely. And this wasn't an isolated case. The Crew, a massive open-world racing game by Ubisoft, was shut down entirely in 2024. The servers went dark. Players who had paid full price, sometimes twice across console and PC, we're left with a menu screen that no longer functioned. No refunds, no apologies, just silence. And that's when the movement began. Stop killing games, a plea, a protest, a warning. At first glance, it might seem like just another internet tantrum, but this goes far deeper. It's not just about games, it's about ownership, it's about memory, and it's about trust. Because for over a decade now, we have been trained to believe that buying something digitally is the same as owning it. But this was a lie. You didn't buy the product, you licensed it temporarily under terms that can change or disappear anytime. And it's not just indie titles or obscure platforms. Marvel's adventures pulled from the stores, GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and GTA San Andreas, removed and re-released as definitive edition that lost its original soundtrack and charm. Super Mario Bros. 35 killed after just 6 months despite a thriving player base. Battlefield 1943, Mirror's Edge, Dead Space 2 multiplayer, Killzone Shadowfall's multiplayer, Multiversus, Jump Force temporarily, all gone or severely limited. Even on mobile, games like Flappy Bird, Infinity Blade, PT, SimCity Build It have all either disappeared or been rendered unplayable. And this is happening across consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. The pattern repeats everywhere. And no, this is not just a fringe issue. It is widespread and it's accelerating as we speak. Marvel Heroes was a beloved online action RPG. Players spent real money on characters, costumes, and upgrades. In 2017, the servers shut down with barely a warning. All that time, money, and progress gone. Lawbreakers, Paragon, and Battleborn, all full-price games, launched with hype, monetized heavily, then killed off entirely when they didn't meet financial targets. Even Darkspore, an EA game with single-player mode, became completely unplayable when its linked servers were shut down, proving that you can lose access to solo content you paid for too. And this kind of practice is not a novelty. Halo 2's online servers were shut down in 2010, severing a thriving community. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, was delisted for years due to licensing issues, only saved by massive fan outcry. But here's the twist. Players didn't just mourn, they fought back. Communities created fan patches, offline mods, and even private servers to revive dead games. Preservation groups archived old builds. Subreddits like Patient Gamers and creators like Upper Echelon Gamers have kept pressure on publishers, demanding offline access, refunds, or at least the right to preserve what people paid for. Because ultimately games are digital history, and right now, the only people protecting that history are the fans. This is the digital iceberg. You see the tip when your favorite game disappears, but underneath, a much deeper erosion is happening. We are losing art, we are losing history, and we are doing it at full price. Even physical copies are not what they used to be. Once you would get a full game on a cartridge or disc. Then came the hybrid phase where physical meant a disc and a massive day one download. Now, many Switch, PlayStation, Xbox physical editions contain nothing more than a download code inside a hollow box. No game, no media preservation, just packaging. And another reason to remember that digital ownership is not ownership. And funnily enough, the price tag of these products hasn't changed at all. Digital or physical, you are still paying $60, $70 or more for a game. And what's really ironic about this is that the only way to ensure that your purchase actually stays with you forever, untouched, unpatched, and playable, is to do the very thing that we were always told not to do. To torrent it, pirate it, and back it up illegally. So that's the state of ownership that we have reached. You only own something if you steal it. And no, this isn't entitlement, this is consumer rights. When you buy a book, you expect it to stay on the shelf. When you buy a film, you expect it to remain on your hard drive. When you buy a game, you expect it to work tomorrow the way it did today. But digital media has become more like a rental service with no warning labels. And the worst part is most people don't even realize what they have lost until it's gone. Stop Killing Games is more than just a hashtag. It's a signal flare, a warning that our digital lives are being wiped piece by piece behind glossy interfaces and corporate smiles. But we're not smiling. And thankfully, the fight isn't just happening in silence. It can't happen in silence, actually. A lot of creators on YouTube have helped popularize the Stop Killing Games initiative, breaking down complex issues around digital rights and calling out publishers for removing access to paid content. Gaming forums, media preservationist groups, and subreddits track delistings, raise awareness, and offer players ways to back up, mod, or restore dead titles. These communities are doing what billion-dollar companies refuse to do: preserve the culture, document the loss, and fight for basic consumer fairness. This makes community members more than just fans. It makes them archivists and watchdogs. And without them, many of these stories and games would already be gone. Call me old or an elder millennial, but the physical death of our beloved has really been impactful, and there is such a nostalgia about remembering Blockbuster on a Friday night or a local video rental place and ending up leaving with more than just that movie that we wanted to see, but a whole stack to watch all weekend and some popcorn and sweets to enjoy during it. We didn't spend hours doom scrolling through a list of movies and ended up not choosing anything. We saw it in person, we grabbed that DVD, and we made that decision. This is the film that I'm going to watch this weekend, and nobody's going to stop me because I am committed to it. And this was ritualistic because going to a physical space and renting a film to watch held us accountable in a way to not doom scroll, because that concept didn't even exist. It helped us plan ahead, and it set us up for a cool weekend that did not include just having an existential crisis as we look at infinite titles and nothing that really sparks our curiosity. And there was something sacred about this, browsing the shelves, picking up the cases, debating with your siblings, laughing at cheap horror films that were more comedies than actual horror. And sometimes you didn't even know what you wanted to watch until you saw it just sitting there on a shelf. And even if the film ended up being a flop, the memory, no matter how silly it was still a win by today's standards. And I think that's the part we didn't understand. We were trading not the item itself, but the presence, the kind of emotional bookmark that the actual product had. And the same goes for music albums. The strange smell of new plastic wrap unwrapping, drawers crammed with hidden treasures, and staff who actually cared about what they were selling and were eager to share their thoughts about that album or giving a genuine book recommendation that you might also like. However, we were told that this was all clutter, that we didn't need a CD tower or a physical DVD or a shelf lined with real books and albums. We were convinced that cloud storage was the next big thing, and it was until it was hidden behind a paywall and then a subscription. In 2024, Western Digital announced that it would shut down support for one of its flagship products, the Western Digital My Cloud Home, just a few years after its launch, and this was a very expensive product, by the way. I even got one at the time because my internet wasn't very reliable when it came to actual clouds, so I invested on this My Cloud Home, hoping that it would work. And I never thought that this would happen. Just a few years after its launch, over 2 million units sold, and then suddenly, almost without a notice, users receive an email letting us know that the servers were scheduled to go dark, and your personal cloud would be gone. So you better do a backup. So unless you manually migrated these files, they would vanish. And the same happened with OneDrive, where even if you did have a subscription because you had an account connected to your business or a school, suddenly they decided to decrease the space available and require you to upgrade your subscription. And yeah, no law was broken, but trust eroded in that moment because the promise of digital was permanence, immortality, and what we got instead was disappearance as a service. When our beloved physical formats moved into soulless warehouses, so did the soulful places that we loved. The local music store shut down, the video rental became a vape shop, the record dealer became a data point. The person who used to say, hey, if you like this, you'll love this, got replaced by an algorithm that tells everyone the same thing. And that was the real loss, the craft, the care, the connection. Physical stuff made us care more about the product and the people who made it and the place we got it from. It also grounded us psychologically. It anchored us to time, to a place, to feeling. But we got seduced by minimalism. We thought getting rid of our physical objects was decluttering, was helping the planet. But what we threw out were the anchors of who we were back then, palpable souls. No wonder we have never been so internally lost as a society. And that's the real price of the new own nothing world. It's not just about your missing film or that deleted game, it's the human side, the cost nobody adds to the balance sheets. When the space is emptied, so did jobs. Entire high streets and town centers gutted, replaced by warehouses, vending hubs, and delivery drivers on 0-hour contracts. The promise of next-day delivery gave us job insecurity. And this goes deeper than the storefronts because specialist trades were also wiped out. Physical media created whole trades and crafts that the digital subdued. The vinyl press operators, the disc mastering engineers, the people who design beautiful packaging, manuals, inserts, box art, a whole ecosystem of skilled creative work wiped out by just one click of download now. And what replaced them was grim, a handful of giant server farms pumping out the same content on repeat. No artistry, no detail, quality circling the drain. And if you think that digital abundance meant higher quality, think again. When was the last time that you bought a digital product that just worked forever? Games launch broken, day one patches bigger than the game itself, software full of bugs from a product that you paid to beta test, updates breaking more than what they fix. Even films get re-edited, censored, name changed, and pulled mid-watch because someone at the HQ changed their minds. And physical products had permanence and were really special. You could fix them, lend them, and even pass them down. While digital products can just disappear or degrade on a whim. When everything is disposable digital clutter, why bother with the quality? Why bother with the craft? And when there's no craft, there's no pride. And when there's no pride, there's no community. And when there's no community, there's no culture worth passing on. So the next time someone shrugs and says, oh, it's just a game, just a show, just an album, remember, it's not just a product, it's people, it's jobs, it's skills. And once it's gone, it's very hard to bring back. And science backs this up. Studies in cognitive psychology consistently show that touch deepens our memory. Physical interaction helps us encode experiences more richly. Your brain forms stronger connections when you're able to use your 5 senses to interact with a product. Psychologists have long known about the endowment effect, the tendency to place higher value on things that we own. But research also shows that physical interaction, touching, holding, using, strengthens the memory encoding. So that worn out CD case you kept during your teenage years, You remember the first time you played it, probably. The dog-eared book with your margin notes. You remember who you were becoming as you read it. Even receipts from a road trip movie marathon was more than just about watching the film. It was about the whole day, the people that you were with, and the life you were living. But we told ourselves, or we were told, that streaming was smarter, that storage was just space, and that physical things were just stuff. We fell in love with convenience and lost our connection. When they say that we are lost without connection, it doesn't mean digital connection, it means realness. It meant sitting on a bench on an old record shop and hearing a voice that would change your life. It meant passing a book to a friend and saying, you have to read this. It meant getting a game on launch day and knowing that you would have it forever, not just until the servers went out. And the big corporations pocketed the difference. We paid the same or more for less. They ceased to have print costs, case costs, manuals, liner notes, and still they charged us full price and thanked us for going green. And side note, let's talk about this going green excuse for a second. Because we were lured into this model through a carbon neutral utopia, oblivious to the fact that really it was a PR fantasy. They told you that it was better for the planet, but the cloud service isn't as light as air, it's actually quite heavy. The digital world might look weightless, but it's powered by massive server farms, hungry for electricity, thirsty for water, and ambitious to obtain rare earth materials at terrifying scales. These are servers that run 24/7, drawing energy from power grids and cooling systems, and leaves enormous carbon footprint. So the reality is we didn't eliminate waste, we just buried it in places that most people can't see. Behind sealed data centers, in cobalt mines and lithium pits of the global south, in the toxic junk heaps where discarded devices go to die. Going digital did not save the planet, it just outsourced the mess. So ultimately, we have to open our eyes and realize that this was not about sustainability, this was about control, about erasing ownership and replacing it with permission. While we ended up not upgrading our formats, we ended up downgrading our humanity. We were promised access to everything. Endless libraries of music, films, books, games, all just a click away. And while this seemed highly practical, what we got was an invisible leash. The death of ownership everywhere. Streaming platforms boast millions of titles, but their libraries vanish overnight. Your favorite film disappears without notice. That iconic album you streamed for years pulled at a whim because a label changed their minds. Books quietly drop out of digital stores, leaving you with pages that suddenly vanish from your device. Apps and software, you don't buy them, you lease them. Forever renting access to tools that once were yours by right. Even smart devices, once symbols of innovation, are designed to brick themselves. No updates, no fixes, just forced obsolescence that pushes you to upgrade or replace your device. And this all boils down to two simple weapons, DRM and planned obsolescence. DRM, or digital rights management, is the invisible chain backed into most of the media and tools used. It's a fancy term that really means you don't own this, you're just borrowing it, and you will keep paying for the privilege. Everything is locked behind it. Essentially, DRM is the software embedded in everything from games to ebooks. Legally, it allows platforms to control what you access, when, and for how long. Ownership under DRM is really a myth. You hold a permission slip, not a possession. Essentially, it controls what you can do with your purchase. Want to lend your digital book to a friend? Not allowed. Want to move your music library to another platform? Good luck. Want to play a game offline after the server shuts down? Too bad, the license is expired. Want to share your Steam library with a friend? illegal. Need to cancel your Adobe Creative Cloud subscription? See what happens to your old files. And then there's planned obsolescence. Products, physical or digital, deliberately designed to break or expire or become incompatible. Your old smart speaker loses updates, your TV can't install new apps, your software subscription pushes changes that break older file formats, not because it's necessary, but because constant failure in drives means constant sales. They sold us innovation while delivering manipulated decay, a system where breaking things on purpose keeps you trapped in a cycle of upgrades and replacements forever. So what happens when you kill local shops, push everyone online, and make sure nobody really owns anything anymore? Well, if you've guessed it, congratulations, the monopoly machine. Netflix, Steam, Amazon, Spotify, basically a handful of digital gatekeepers that decide what stays, what goes, what thrives, and what dies. If they want it gone, it's gone. If they want to jack up the price, you can't say no, because once you're locked in, where else are you going to go? We were told digital would mean endless freedom, a universe of choices, but look closer. All those thousands of titles and millions of songs, they're just lines of code that can disappear anytime licensing changes. One flick of a corporate switch, games delisted from online stores because publishers want to remaster and resell them at full price again. You don't decide what you keep, they do. So, is that really ownership? And here's the frustrating joke. The more content they pump out, the less of it matters. We are drowning in cheap shows, copy-paste albums, and algorithmic fillers. A new Netflix series appears, makes a splash, milks the story into 10 episodes, then vanishes from your memory or the platform months later. And the more they give us, the more disposable it all becomes. Mass production disguised as infinite abundance, when really the same 4 mega corporations own the pipes, the taps, and the water. You're expected to pay to play and pay to stay. You'd think all this access would come at a fair price, right? But the moment they have you hooked, they raise the rent. They add in-media sponsors and intermission for ads. The convenience of streaming as opposed to watching TV was precisely not having 3 minutes of publicity for every 8 minutes of content. But now, we have gone full circle. Your subscriptions creep up a few dollars every year, your games launch at $70 and still hit you with microtransactions. Your music, your movies, they stay locked in a platform you can't leave because leaving means losing everything. And choice, freedom, it doesn't exist anymore because you are in the monopoly machine and it prints money while you keep feeding it your credit card. And we thought that maybe books could face a different fate, but not quite. Books were supposed to be safe. At least you own a book if you buy it, right? Well, we had signs of the opposite since its inception in the digital space. Once upon a time in 2009, Kindle users woke up to see purchased ebooks vanish from their library. Gone thanks to licensing errors or regional disputes. Amazon has the power to remote delete a title you paid for, and they have done it. Ironically enough, one of the first examples of this was deleting the books 1984 and Animal Farm. If George Orwell could see this, he would probably just nod grimly. And of course, then there's the software, once sold in boxes or ripped in multiple parts CDs so you can install it because it was too heavy for one CD. But now, it's actually a subscription. Adobe Creative Cloud, Microsoft Office 365. Plug in your card and keep paying every month, every year, or you lose access. You don't own the tools you use to work anymore, you just rent them. It's all a rent trap dressed up in productivity branding. And even your smart home gadgets can do it. Smart thermostats, doorbells, TVs, they all rely on cloud services to function. When a company goes under or decides to stop supporting the product you paid real money for turns into an expensive paperweight. And it's not theoretical. Google bricked the Revolve Smart Home Hub in 2016. Sonos and other brands have bricked older speakers by cutting off updates. Your smart gadget that you purchase on the spot has become really just a subscription in disguise with no specific expiry date until the company says that there is. And this comes down to using the same trick. Take something people used to own, digitize it, keep the price the same or higher, wrap it up in licensing and DRMs, sell it back forever, offer a free trial, get users hooked, miss a payment, lose everything. The company goes bust, lose everything. They change the rules. Too bad, you agreed when you clicked accept in the terms and conditions. And behind this erosion of ownership stands a small cabal of tech giants, media conglomerates, and platform owners. Just a few companies owning a handful of streaming services. A handful of music labels controlling nearly all the songs that you listen to. The same publishers that dominate print also pull the strings on digital books. Major software firms have shifted to subscription models that guarantee you will keep paying or lose the tools essential for your work and creativity. And it's more than an accident, it's a calculated consolidation of control. No wonder we are all burned out. You are not imagining it. Subscription fatigue and digital burnout are real. We are drowning in reminders, pop-ups, expired access, shifting interfaces, and fine print. And it's not just a financial drain, it's emotional exhaustion cosplaying as convenience. We're not just paying with our money, we're paying with our time, with our attention, and with our energy. We live in a constant pressure to manage, renew, cancel, unsubscribe, re-authenticate, update, and pray nothing disappears in the process. We are trapped in a rat race holding a plethora of digital devices that have become an extension of our physical selves. And we're exhausted. I mean, who wouldn't be? And this whole thing is creeping up in more serious corners too. Some medical devices and diagnostic tools that are locked behind subscription models. You pay for ongoing access to software updates or patient data portals. In some clinical labs, access to your own medical records or test results is dependent on a link. The link has an expiry date, so your data dependent on the platform's permanence. A subscription for your own health. This is digital blackmail. Deliberate obsolescence pushes you to keep paying for the newest device, the latest update, and extended insurance. And AI-driven curations narrow your discovery, funneling you towards the same blockbuster hits, the same formulas, the same safe bets. So it's safe to say that choice is an illusion at this point. More than a dozen streaming platforms with millions of titles, but how many of those are unique? How many are owned by the same gatekeepers? How many are promoted based on profit, not quality? You don't get more options, you get more places to pay the same monopolized content gatekeepers. We traded ownership for access, only to find that access comes with invisible strings. Contracts we didn't read, terms we can't negotiate, and controls we can't escape. And if this sounds dystopian, it's because it is. Yet most of us don't even realize that we're locked in. The illusion of endless access masks a loss so profound it threatens the very idea of personal freedom. We need to see beyond the screens, beyond the just pay monthly slogans, because when music disappears, games vanish, books are revoked, and even your health is held hostage, what's left? What does ownership mean if it's conditional? What does culture mean if it's rented? What does freedom mean if it's a subscription? And this great digital monopoly is more than just about profits. It's about power and control. all while making you feel grateful for the privilege. And the worst part, most people call this progress. And if you think that losing ownership was bad, here comes the final insult, because now we're stepping into the next level of clownery. The new factory isn't a sweatshop or a warehouse anymore. It's an algorithm. Generative AI churning out music, writing, voices, and even faces by the millions at dizzying speed. It's a relentless assembly line of synthetic creativity, mass-produced at zero cost for the companies who own these systems. And let's not forget that most of these AI systems are trained in vast data sets scraped from human-made work, often without consent, credit, or compensation. The result is a machine regurgitation of stolen creativity owned by the few, not the many. Spotify now hosts AI-generated artists that never lived, never felt, never struggled, yet flood the platform with endless streams of sterile sound engineered to keep you hooked, but never truly moved. Romance novels, articles, and screenplays once crafted by humans with unique perspectives now are often spun out by machines trained on the work of countless creators, endlessly recycled with no original soul behind them. Content farms have evolved from simple clickbait websites to sprawling factories of AI-generated content, designed to keep your eyes glued to the screen, your wallets open, but your heart untouched. Gone are the days of the spotlight on the messy, imperfect, but deeply human creativity. Art and culture itself being hollowed out, machine-made, machine-owned, endlessly replaced. Even on YouTube, soulless content designed to sound right but feels utterly wrong. Emotional emptiness dressed up as abundance. And these AI creations tick all the boxes for instant gratification, the right beats, the right words, the right hooks, but they lack one thing that the algorithm cannot replicate, which is the human heart and soul. AI has no lived experience, no struggle or joy or sorrow, no imperfections that make art memorable. Every note, every pixel, every line of code stored and replicated infinitely. But AIs don't remember, so they can't cherish, reflect, grow, feel nostalgia, understand history, have a sense of legacy. What's left that's uniquely human? What happens when culture is no longer created but assembled? When every melody, every story, every face is generated, licensed, and replaced in a loop? What's left that's uniquely human? What happens when culture is no longer created but assembled? When art is no longer felt but produced, coldly optimized for engagement and profits? I mean, we see this already with the TikTokification of music. And this is the final frontier of the digital age's erosion of ownership, memory, and meaning. A problem that creators and collectors have shined light upon. A crisis for all of us, or anyone who values depth, connection, and meaning in what they consume. What happens to our personal stories, our unique identities, and our cultural memory when everything is temporary, artificial, based on trends, and owned by a handful of corporations? Well, the answer is not clear yet, but it feels grim. And if we don't start asking the right questions and fighting for a future beyond these algorithms, we risk losing more than our games, our films, our songs. By staying in this path and steering in the same direction, we risk losing the empathy that makes us human. People who spent years learning a craft replaced in seconds by a machine trained on their own work without permission or credits. And the worst of all is you are paying for it. So if you say you don't care because you don't care about art, well, do you care about your own hard-earned money? Because That's what you're paying for very often nowadays, is machine-made noise churned out without soul, without struggle. And the people who built the culture you love are kicked to the curb. Writers, musicians, voice actors, artists, developers. Do you really want to be stuck in a factory line of filler content designed to be just good enough as long as you keep scrolling, keep subscribing, and keep consuming? Because if that doesn't make you furious, it should. Preservation isn't just about museums and old geeks hoarding dusty discs. It's a living rebellion. And this is why the fight to keep ownership, to preserve craftsmanship, and to protect culture from becoming soulless product of automation isn't nostalgia or resistance to progress. It's a fight for the very essence of humanity. So what do we do now that we see the trick for what it is? Because we're told that this is inevitable, that there's no other way, that physical media is dead, that ownership is outdated, that human craft is too slow and too costly to matter. But here's the thing, these statements only stay true if we believe it. And everything just stays the same if we don't move a muscle, if we just sit back and watch it all burn. But there is an alternative. Every time we choose not to play along, we weaken the system just a little. Every time we buy a vinyl from an indie label or keep a Blu-ray on a shelf instead of trusting the cloud, choose a paperback over a vanish-on-demand ebook, mod a game to outlive its servers, or pay a real human for their art, music, and words, we push back. These aren't loud, violent revolutions, but they matter. They keep the money in the hands of the actual creators. They remind us what ownership feels like. They keep choices alive, not the algorithm's imitation of it. Communities still exist and they need us. For every mega platform, there is a record shop clinging on. For every shutdown notice, there's a fan patch keeping the game alive. For every AI-written story, there's a zine, a devlog, a niche publisher still doing it the slow, human way. There are local bookshops, libraries, secondhand game stores. There are stubborn collectors and passionate curators, not hoarders but preservationists. They're still here and they're still fighting. They need us, and we probably need them more than we realize. And when you do buy digital, ask questions, push for DRM free, support developers who offer offline mode, call out companies that kill your purchases with no warning and no refund, make noise when a show vanishes, when songs disappear, when books get pulled from your device overnight. Every refund demanded, every viral headline, every time a lawmaker is forced to look twice, that's another crack in the wall. The fight for preservation has become a rebellion. When fans mod dead games to life again, they're keeping a piece of history breathing. When pirate archives preserve forgotten music, abandoned films, or delisted games, they're often the only reason that legacy isn't lost forever. And you can call that theft if you want, but when a studio deletes something that you pay for, who's really stealing from who? Now, call me an optimist, but I still believe that a better world is still possible. We don't have to smile while these monopolies gut creativity and call it innovation. We can keep buying physical. We can support small creators, not these huge corporations. And we can demand that digital products respect ownership instead of locking us in forever. And probably more importantly, we can teach future generations that real things, made things, are worth holding on to. Because we were promised the future, no clutter, no materialism, no scratch discs or missing manuals, just infinite choice, enduring access. But we planted the seeds of permanence, and what grew out of it were endings. So Stop Killing Games has become bigger than itself. It's a line in the sand that says, we see what you're doing, we know why you're doing it, the mask is falling and the greed is showing. And we're not going to sit here clapping, buying your products, liking your posts, while you destroy everything that makes owning, making, and sharing human culture possible. This story doesn't have to end with "you'll own nothing and be happy." Because when everything is streamed, borrowed, or made by a machine, the last thing we truly own might be our refusal to give in. So if enough of us care and fight, maybe it ends like this. We bought it, we own it, we keep it, and we're not giving it back. Because it's time to reclaim our games, our films, our books, our music, our tools, memories, and history. Because Stop Killing Games was just the start. Maybe it's time to stop killing everything. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that it gave you some food for thought. Hope it inspired you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.